Welcome to Mindset and Attitude to Selling. I'm excited about this topic. You know why? Because I believe those agents who watch this video and apply what I'm going to share, I believe is truly going to change their game as a buyer's agent. How to become more than a real estate agent, what you need to do, and why you need to do this to close the buyer. I'm going to share 3 steps that you need to learn and you need to apply if you truly want to change your career as a real estate agent, especially as a buyer's agent. Before I dig into the topic, I just want to give you a couple analogies on how I see this playing out, okay? And hopefully you can relate with these analogies because it really is applying to you, the buyer's agent. Let's assume you have some football draft choices, right? Let's say the number 1 draft choice. He's going to be in demand from agents, sports agents, right? So there's probably going to be a handful of agents trying to get this draft choice to sign on with them, right? So what is it that these agents are doing before the sports person or the athlete signs on with one of the agents? They have to sell themselves, their experiences, their services to the athlete. And then the athlete will make the decision who's going to be best for them, right? Does that make sense? Let's look at a professional athlete that's already established, superstar, everybody loves him, and his contract is up at the end of the season. Now he's going to be a free agent. So what's going to happen? There's going to be a handful of teams that are going to try to bid to win for his services, right? Because now he's more valuable, because now he has the experience, he has the reputation, he has the brand, and he's won championships, right? So the owners of the team or the general manager, whoever is pursuing the professional athlete, has to sell them why this athlete, this professional athlete, should play for their team versus the other team, right? So they're selling. What am I trying to get at? Well, you need to understand, as a buyer's agent or even a seller's agent, you truly are not an agent. You're licensed as a real estate agent, but you're not an agent. You are a salesperson first. And once you get the buyer, i.e. the athlete, to sign on with you, i.e. broker's contract and commission, then you become an agent. Does that make sense? So I hope this was helpful, because I'm going to get into a topic that's going to change your game if you apply it. Okay, so keep this in mind. There's an NAR ruling out there that's affecting the industry. For me personally, I see it as an opportunity. And I hope by the end of this video, you also see it as an opportunity. But before I tell you the topic and the opportunity, let me share some real facts with you that you may not like, that you may not want to hear, that you may not want to accept for yourself. There's some positive that came out of this NAR ruling for me and how I see it. Number 1, it got the buyer's agent to be exposed on their weaknesses or their weakness. What do I mean? As you know, most buyer's agents throughout the history of real estate have always gotten paid their commission from the seller's agent side. So what the seller's agent was doing is selling the seller, showing their value, negotiating a commission, not only for themselves, but for the future buyer or agent, right? So the question is, what's more valuable? The seller's agent that's bringing the inventory, or the buyer's agent who's bringing the money? Me personally, there's a saying, is a seller's market or is a buyer's market? To me, it's always the buyer's market. If the buyers are buying a lot, there's a lot of inventory, and there's demand, you're going to sell it for a higher price. But it's the buyer that determines the outcome of the price, right? If nobody's buying and there's a lot of inventory, the value of the properties go down, right? But the buyers determine that. Why? Because they're not buying. So the seller has to lower the price to try to get a buyer to do what? To buy. So is the buyer more important than the seller? Is the buyer's agent more valuable than the seller's agent? That all depends on the deal, how you go about the deal. So now the buyer's agent has been exposed. That's a fact. A lot of agents are either going to quit or they're going to get fired if they don't adjust and get a contract and a commission, right? So what's happening is a lot of agents are now going to the seller's side, right? So now there's going to be saturated of inventory. There's going to be a lot of inventory. People are going to get listing. But if they don't have no agents that are buying, a buyer's agent to buy it, then what's going to happen? You got all this inventory. Now you got a lot of seller's agent, but not no buyer's agent. So why is that a good thing if you are a buyer's agent? Because it's going to give you the opportunity to become a dynamic buyer's agent. It's going to give you an opportunity to increase your value. It's going to give you an opportunity to grow as a dynamic salesperson if you choose to do that. And also, it's going to give you an opportunity to turn this potential bad situation, depending on how you think about it, taking this lemon and turning it into lemonade. That's how I see it. In my position, I could do both sides. I don't have a problem. Does that make sense? So keep this in mind, guys. You buyer's agent. Take this as an opportunity to develop your skill. And before I dig into the topic, I'm going to ask you 3 questions that you need to answer for yourself. It's really one question, but I decided to break it into 3 questions so that you can think. Number 1 is, what is it that you truly do? And don't say you're a real estate agent. Does that mean you're a real estate agent? What does that mean? Number 2, what is your skill? Are you a top athlete that has a valuable skill, whether it's a quarterback, a wide receiver, a running back, a lineman, a basketball player, a point guard, a shooting guard, a center, a forward? What is your skill? Question number 3, how valuable is your skill in what you do? Think about it. Are you a real estate agent? Or are you a salesperson? Or are you both? Which one comes first? The salesperson or the agent? Just food for thought. Share your comments below. Let me know what you think. Okay, now let's dig into this topic, and I want you to keep an open mind. Okay, write this information down. This is going to be so simple that you're not going to believe it. But these 3 steps you need to absolutely do to close the buyer. So this is what you need to do and why you need to do it. Okay? Number 1 is you have to have a story, and you have to know how to tell that story. What story am I talking about? Before I tell you the story, let me ask you this question. Do any of you watch movies? I'm sure you do. Do any of you listen to music? I'm sure you do. Do any of you listen to a favorite podcast or radio person? I'm sure you do. I do. Why do you do those things? Because you like hearing and watching stories. Why do you like watching and listening to stories? Like music or podcast? Because you like to feel good. You like to be engaged. You like your emotions wild up. Does that make sense? So what is your story? Do you have a story to tell? And what story do you tell? The story you have to tell the buyer is the story of you. Not in a braggadocious way, not in an egotistical way, not in a condescending way or an arrogant way, but in an effective way, with humility, with strength, with truth, without embellishing, with the right tonality. It's not what you say or what story you tell, but it's how you tell that story. Because at the end of the day, that buyer needs to have confidence with your conviction that you are the agent that they need and want for this transaction. Whether it's one transaction or multiple transactions. And since the buyers are not used to paying a commission to the agent, and they're not used to signing a contract before looking at properties, you're going to have to tell a story why they need to do that. And so what is your story? You figure that story out. Because that story has to be about you, your experience, your successes, your confidence, all of that. That's the story. Now, I'm assuming most of you have never had to do that because you got paid from the seller side, right? So in order to tell your story, you have to have a platform, or what I call a method, a path to telling your story effectively so that you could be focused. So the second thing you need to do is have the right script. The script is the blueprint on how you're going to get to your destination, which is what? Getting the contract and the commission, right? And on that platform, the script, you have to tell your story on that foundation. And I'll tell you something. Whenever I'm selling let's say I'm selling a new industry and a new product, I always write a script for it. Why? Because I need to know the prospects I'm going to speak to, what their objections are going to be, so I can have the right rebuttals for that, right? And handle that. I have to be able to tell my story why they need to hire me for their industry, right? This is no different. So you have to have a script. And it's not just writing the script, it's having the right elements in the script to allow you to tell your story effectively, with confidence, with conviction, so that you can set the tone for not only the selling process, but for the relationship with the buyer, whether it's going to be a one-time buy or a long-term relationship. But even if it's a one-time purchase, if you do the right thing and you have the value and you tell a powerful story, they're going to refer people to you, chances are, right? So having a script is important. What is the third thing? This is where a lot of agents have gone bad, in my experience. You must, and I'm going to emphasize, you must with capital letters, learn to master rebuttals. Let me repeat that. You must learn to master rebuttals. In this case, as a buyer's agent, you're probably going to get one or two rebuttals max. Usually on the seller side, there's about 6 or 7 objections. I'm sorry, you're going to get 1 or 2 objections from the buyer, and typically from the seller side. Speaking with for sale by owners on a daily basis, there's usually about 6 or 7 different types of objections. From the buyers, there's typically 2. One is, why do I need to sign a contract before I look at a property? Number 2, why do I have to pay your commission? Right? Those are 2 legitimate objections. But those are the law now, right? By NAR rulings. So you have to have rebuttals for those 2 objections in order to get the buyer to give you a contract and pay your commission, in order for you to close the buyer. Now, why is rebuttals important? It's everything. 3 reasons why rebuttals are important and valuable. Number 1, it diffuses the objection or objections. And when you say the rebuttals with the right tonality, with the right conviction and confidence, chances are that rebuttal will not come up again. So when you diffuse it, you eliminate it, it's done. Now you can continue the selling process. What does the second thing that a rebuttal does? And it happens instantaneously, psychologically, to the buyer. You start to increase your value. They start to see your value. Why? Because they're not used to being spoken to like that. You took a potential bad situation, the NAR ruling about a contract before they look at a property, or a commission, where that could have been very frustrating for the buyer. And if you got to keep defending it, that means they haven't been sold. So if you could do that right off the bat, now you're in the negotiation stages versus debate stages, right? So you increase your value without you realizing. Simultaneously, what happens at the same time with the rebuttal, these 3 things happen at the same time. You diffuse the objection, you increase your value, and you transition to storytelling. Wherever you are at that moment in the story, you just continue it effortlessly. That's what the script does. It lets you take the objection, diffuse it, and then bring it back to the script. Let me share another analogy with that. It's like being on a train track, right? You and the buyer have to walk on the opposite sides but parallel to each other and on the same page, right? You're going the same path. What happens if a train derails to the left? You're going to get into an accident. What if it derails to the right? You're going to get into an accident, right? So those are the objections, right? Derailing. You as a conductor, i.e. the agent, you have to diffuse that, fix it, and bring it back on track, right? So that you can continue to move forward, set the tone, the selling process, and the whole caboodle, right? Does that make sense? I hope that was helpful. So that's what the script does, and the rebuttals continues to go on that straight path, that train track, that script. It's very important that you do that. Does that make sense? So again, number 1 is you gotta have a story. That story has to be powerful. It has to be a real story, no gimmicks, no embellishing. Speak the truth. Be genuine and sincere about your experience in real estate. And let me add something else to that. Let's say you're an agent and you do mostly buyer's agent. You represent buyers more than sellers. But let's say you've been in real estate for 10 years, right? And let's say you've been involved in 100 successful real estate transactions, meaning they funded, right? In the scheme of things, in the real estate industry as a whole, that's nothing, right? That's not even a speck of dust in the big scheme of things, right? Let's just be practical in real estate. However, if you're telling that to an individual, i.e. a buyer, do you have any idea how powerful and valuable they receive that information? And it blows my mind how many agents don't talk about it. That is your value. That is your story. So that 100 successful real estate transactions could make the big difference to the buyer hiring you or to the seller hiring you, right? Because on a one-on-one scenario, that could mean a whole lot. On the big scheme of things, it may not be nothing. But who cares about the whole big scheme of things? What matters is that buyer that you're trying to earn their relationship, right? Does that make sense? So that's the story. You got to make sure you know how to tell a story if you're not used to doing it. The script is a viable tool that will allow you, if used properly and have the right ingredients in the script, to tell your story. And then while you're telling the story and you're going through the selling process and you're coming to the close and you're ready to ask for the contract and a commission, they may come to a complete halt. That train is going to stop. Right? How do you get that train to get back on the track and move forward? You have to know your rebuttals. And the rebuttals, you have to tell it as effective and as powerful as you do your story. So if you tell a powerful story, but you don't know how to overcome objection, you just lost. You blew it. The movie ended bad. They were disappointed. They walked out of the theater upset. Does that make sense? So that's what I encourage you buyers agents to do. I hope this was helpful. I really do. I hope I was as clear as I possibly can be. If you found some value in this video, do me a favor, smash the like button. Do share your comments below whether you agree, disagree, share your thoughts with me. If you're watching this on a different platform, or whatever platform you're on, just click to the link below if you want to know more about mindset and attitude to selling. Click the link below. It'll lead you to my YouTube channel. Subscribe is for free. Watch some of the videos. Give me a feedback. If you're watching this video on my YouTube channel, please support the channel. Smash that like button. And subscribe if you haven't subscribed again. Or if you haven't subscribed yet. Okay? So I want to thank you for sharing your time with mindset and attitude to selling. What you need to do and why you need to do this to close the buyer. But remember this. Change the way you think about real estate, about being a real estate agent. Change the way you think and how you feel about this NAR ruling. Take it as an opportunity to grow, to become a better agent, a more successful agent, to develop your skill, to become valuable in that skill, to really truly get to understand what it is that you do. And then master your story. Master the script. Master the art of rebuttals. And then watch your value increase. Watch you get more buyers, contracts, and higher commission. And if you do these things, watch your commissions absolutely explode. Talk to you later. Have a fantastic day. Bye.